Hi, I'm Jacobus Dovis. In this video, I want to introduce to you my world building project I have been working on for the last few years, which I have named Aethorid and is a world much like our own with a long and varied history. First thing I want to share with you is the history of the country of Sellia, from beginning in the Copper Age to the modern day, showing how the country and people came to be and their accomplishments to their trials and tribulations.
The first people to arrive on the western coast of the Wakefern continent were descended from the Proto-Shinamic culture, more specifically the Southern Shinamic tribes. Around the year 10,000 BID, the people of the Proto-Sewic culture arrived on the beach of the Bay of Kanti and started building their settlements that stretched down as far south as the Rakan River. In this time, settlers created lots of weapons, jewelry, and pottery, showing off their early craftsmanship skills and expansion of a unique and distinct culture.
Over the next 2,000 years, as populations grew, more people migrated south and went as far as the Benhi River. While that was happening, more settlements were established around the Bay of Kanti, mostly along the Hekni and Montanus rivers. It was also around this time that aspects of later Sellian culture emerged, such as burying the dead on hills. With the invention of larger and stronger sailing vessels around the year 4300 BID, trade started to majorly increase, which allowed settlements to grow and eventually cities started to sprout up. The first city to be founded was the city of Winu in 4000 BID, which led to the creation of the first Sellian monarch. According to legend, the first Sellian king was called Betjak, so modern historians called the ruling family the Betjakian dynasty. The city became extremely wealthy with tons of gold artifacts found in their tombs, and they even developed their own burial practices for the dynasty, which is a practice followed by future dynasties. The dynasty ruled until 3800 BID when they disappeared, and the reason is still unknown. It could have been that they were overthrown or just died out for various reasons. After the death of the royal family, there was a period of chaos caused by a succession crisis, with lots of violence and parts of the city being burned. But eventually the violence ended with a new family taking control, and they were referred to as the Jatani dynasty. After a century of rule in 3700 BID, under the Jatani dynasty, the first writing system was invented during the reign of Kafhi III in order to keep track of trade and city affairs. It also means more is known about this period than previously. The invention of writing spread around the Sewic world for the next 200 years. Around the same time, the cities of Kinun, Bevti, and Inun were founded along the Benhi and the coast of the Bay of Kanti. And over the centuries, the cities grew and began warring with each other for various reasons. Two big rivals were Kinun and Bevti, with the rivalry likely being caused by the desire to control the Benhi, and there is evidence of many battles taking place both through dig sites and artistic depictions from the era. This rivalry continued into the early Bronze Age, starting around 3500 BID, and this meant the adoption of bronze weaponry. It was also around the early Bronze Age when larger and more sophisticated cities started to be built, which allowed the territories of various city-states to go further inland. Since before this, most city-states could only control territories along the rivers and coasts, since traveling through the thick jungles and forests made it harder to stay in contact with smaller villages, and prior to this, most roads were. This trend continued throughout the early, Middle, and Late Bronze Age until 1400 BID, when the city of Inun started a large-scale conquest of its neighboring cities, including Winu, which it was conquered in 1378 BID. Over the next 20 years, the Inun kingdom spent time to solidify their rule over their new territory by implanting puppet rulers, claiming taxes, and much more. But in 1350, their view turned south to the rich southern cities, and they started with the city of Tuminti. This action caused southern city-states to council in the city of Feninki to discuss the threat of the Anun kingdom. The most outspoken of all in the council was Binanka, who was the exiled ruler of Tuminti, who during one heated discussion said, "Your bickering will solve nothing. The threat of the Anun rulers should be obvious to us all, and I have seen it firsthand. So, great rulers, we must fight on each other's side for all our sakes." Eventually, the city-states unified their armies in what was referred to as the Kapka Alliance, which is the name given to it by modern scholars. Now unified against the Anun kingdom, the armies marched to war, with the first battle they would fight would be the Battle of Hunada in 1349, which would be decisively won by the Anun forces, forcing the alliance to retreat to Heninki. Then, over the next few decades, many battles would take place with neither army able to get a one-up on each other. That was until 1325, after the Anuns' decisive victory at the Battle of Nananor, and after the battle, around 10 to 15 cities surrendered. This was a devastating loss for the Cupcake Alliance, and it almost cost them the war, but miraculously the Cupcake Alliance was able to push back from the brink, and in 1290 the Cupcake Alliance won at the Siege of Winu. After the war, the alliance disbanded, and the Anun kingdom was left a shadow of its former self. Many warriors from the Anun Wars became bandits or mercenaries, and those bandits would later become warlords in later centuries. But over the next century, there was relative peace. This would change in 1160 BID when the newly founded Yan dynasty started growing and absorbing towns and cities, firstly starting with Alsian settlements, and then by the year 1125 they had conquered Sewic cities around the Bay of Kanti, including Anun. This conquest worried the cities south of the Rakan River, but at the time not much happened, but this changed around the year 1000 BID, during the start of the Iron Age, because around this time trade from further north with the Ossatori culture and the nutrients became more common. With this growth in trade, the cities and the ruling families became wealthier from both the iron and spice trade than before, which meant they were able to field larger armies, which meant they were able to grow their territory and therefore their income, which resulted in the creation of the first Tubevelk at the beginning of the Tubevelk period. The first Tubevelk was the Kunatu Tubevelk, which was established in 990 after the conquest of Winu. After the conquest of Winu, many cities joined the Tubevelk in order to avoid being conquered, and the Kunatu became the new Sellian superpower, but unlike the Anun kingdom, the southern cities didn't unite against them because they were a shield against the growing Yan dynasty. Over the next 20 years, not much of note happened until the only independent Sellian city north of the Rakan River, Bikunin, offered to join the Kunatu Tubevelk for protection. But this caused the ruler of the Yan dynasty, Fanmi I, to prepare for war, and the army started to gather near Vikunin. But this did not go unnoticed by the Velk, and they started preparing to fortify the city. As tensions rose, war became inevitable, and one day in 960, it was said when an Alsian convoy came to negotiate, a soldier on the wall shot their leader with an arrow, and the group fled. And with that, the war began. But that's the story for another time. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video and my world. If you did, it would be great if you subscribed and liked the video so more people will see it. I will continue the history of Sellia in the next video. Goodbye.